We know that Prime Minister met with both President Biden, but VP Kamala Harris as well. And for many around the world, this was our first opportunity really to get a glimpse of how the VP is thinking about the war in Gaza. What did we learn from that meeting?
Yes, and you'll notice, Joumanna, that there were public remarks, right, which is quite unusual. We didn't see sort of planned public remarks from Joe Biden with this particular meeting, even though he said some of the same things to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It's clear that Kamala Harris wants to signal an alternate approach, something maybe more strident than perhaps Biden is known for. It's also clear that she wants to reach out to those parts of the electorate that had definitely felt alienated by President Biden over the last year or so. Given that there was protest that the whole world saw around campuses, there was even police called in certain circumstances to break up these protests. And there were protests on Capitol Hill today, not least of all, almost 40 representatives and senators that didn't attend that speech by Netanyahu.
Yeah. Dan, let me put this next question to you, because I thought it was really interesting that in comments to reporters after that meeting, the VP Harris said that the two-state solution is the only path that ensures Israel remains a secure, democratic state. How is that likely to go down within the Knesset, which not long ago rejected any notion of a two-state solution?
It certainly won't go down well, neither in Israel's legislature or, I imagine, among the wider Israeli public, given this Gaza war, given the Hamas attack on October 7th that triggered the war. There's very little patience for the idea of a two-state solution. This is an idea that's been flagging for a decade now, since the last set of talks between Israel and the Palestinians under U.S. sponsorship broke down a decade ago. However, the vice president is not really stating a new position. This has been the stock U.S. position. In fact, international consensus going back more than 3 decades. And indeed, the former U.S. president, Trump himself, spoke about Palestinian statehood as part of his Middle East plan launched just a few years ago. So Israel really is setting out a position that's out of sync with much of international opinion.
Yeah. Dan, let me just ask you more broadly how the reception has been to the speech that the Prime Minister gave to Congress yesterday. Very polarizing speech. It was very fiery. It was almost an hour long. How did it go down back home within the Israeli public? Did it resonate well?
I think there was widespread appreciation for Netanyahu's showmanship, the virtuosity of the delivery of that speech. I think no one doubts that as an orator, he's very strong and he's very good at setting out Israel's position. However, in the polls, his standing is not good in Israel. There is much rancor over the fact that under his watch, the October 7th attack took place and Israel failed really to mount an appropriate response. This is a protracted war that's inflicted casualties on Israeli troops and civilians on October 7th on a scale not seen in decades. So I don't think it's done that much to win back domestic support. However, I've heard grudging appreciation even among those who don't necessarily like the Prime Minister or don't want to see him stay in office for the fact that as a national spokesman, as someone who is potentially capable of shoring up what appears to be eroding bipartisan support in the United States, he put on a very good show.